Hello, and welcome to Talking Brains. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Sarkis, author of Gaslighting, Recognize Manipulative and Emotionally Abusive People and Break Free. You can find me at stephaniesarkis.com. Today I'll be talking about what to do when your employer is a gaslighter. Please hit that subscribe button and give us a rating. It's appreciated. Enjoy the podcast. So in my book, Gaslighting, I have a whole chapter dedicated to gaslighting in the workplace. So I encourage you to check that out as Chapter 4 of Gaslighting, Recognize Manipulative and Emotionally Abusive People and Break Free. There's also information there, too, about how to cope with gaslighting when you're a victim of it and how to survive it. And you can find that at stephaniesarkis.com. I received several emails from people talking about being gaslighted by their supervisors at work, and I got this this particular person's permission to read this on the podcast. So she says, I was gaslighted by two supervisors over several years before being terminated 2 years ago. I just found your recent book on gaslighting and would like to find others who have likely experienced the same because I believe it is a widely condoned practice at the place at which I worked. It was no secret that anyone who tried to stand up to the place lost their job, committed suicide, or both. No employer should be allowed to get away with this, and now I'm only feeling well enough to try and hold them accountable. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens when your employer is a gaslighter. I have had several emails like this. Unfortunately, I think it happens more than we realize. Gaslighters have destroyed many careers and companies. You may see the following behaviors from gaslighters. They take credit for your work. They give you backhanded compliments, so that it sounds like they're complimenting you, but they're really saying something obnoxious instead. They ridicule you in front of coworkers or other supervisors. They falsify your evaluations. They blame everything on you. They know your weak spot and they exploit it. They actively try to get you demoted or fired with no merit to it. They lie to get ahead constantly. They seem to compete with everyone to be the best at work to the detriment of everyone around them. And they will spread lies about you and then completely deny doing it if you confront them. They sabotage your work. They will log into your computer and post stuff from you. They will also give you the wrong times and dates for important meetings. And they usually don't put this in email because then they'd have a paper trail. So they tell you this and then you show up at the wrong time and they're like, no, I told you the right time. And then they put in your performance review. Also, they pressure you to do something unethical, and they don't really care if your ethics don't match with what they asking you to do, that they see that largely as just your problem and you're being sensitive, so they'll blame you a lot for that. They also get jealous of your accomplishments instead of congratulating you. I'm thinking of someone that I worked with that told me that when I had a book come out, they didn't say congratulations. They said, well, now you're making everybody else look bad. And I'm thinking, well, how is me writing a book making you look bad? So that's one of the things you'll see is that people will, instead of congratulating you, tell you why whatever you did wasn't good enough, or they'll tell you that, hey, you're bringing us down or you're making us look bad or something. They also have blatant displays of anger when things don't go their way. They also will have controlled anger, which means they will be angry with you only in their office, or they'll do it in a way that they have a smile on their face while they're saying some really vicious things. So if someone's walking by and they don't hear what's going on, the gaslighter will look like they're just having a normal conversation with you. So when you say, hey, this person said some really horrible things to me, they'll say, well, so-and-so walked by and let's ask them what they saw. And of course the person's going to be like, well, I saw them smiling or talking, so I didn't really hear anything. And so the gaslighter is going to be like, see, okay, well, I didn't do anything wrong, which is not the case. So they also bully and threaten other people. They'll do that either through, just under their breath when they walk by, they'll mumble something to you. And again, they look outwardly like they're fine. So you sometimes aren't believed when you try and tell people about it. They sexually harass people, and they can make your job a total nightmare. They do a lot of one-upping. They are very concerned when you start doing well. Instead of them being proud of you for they were a leader of your team and you did well, they'll actually get mad at you because they'll accuse you of trying to one-up them. Because we talked about earlier that gaslighters tend to project. They blame you for what they're doing. So you'll have quite a few gaslighting supervisors say that that you're trying to one up them when they're actually, that's what they do on a regular basis. So also, they may be calm for a period of time. Sometimes that's because their supervisor may have called them on it, but this behavior starts back up again. And we talked about again that gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse that you tend to see more often in people with the narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder. But some people can also be gaslighters without a diagnosis as well. So you are protected by some laws too. So we'll talk a little bit about that from the U.S. and the U.K. So according to the U.S. Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, which is EEOC.gov, harassment is reaching the point of unlawfulness when you have to put up with a harassing behavior as a condition of staying in your job, or if the harassment is severe enough or it encompasses your job so much that a reasonable person would find it intimidating, abusive, or hostile. And sexual harassment is defined as unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical harassment of sexual nature. And you don't have to be the direct target of a behavior for it to qualify as harassment. If another person's behavior towards your coworkers impacted your ability to do your job or stay at your place of employment, you may still qualify legally as being harassed. So, and harassment's all about power, and gaslighters love to have power over other people. They get a high from that. We've talked about before that when you get a reward at your job for doing a good job, like someone tells you, hey, you did a great job, you get a feeling of accomplishment. But gaslighters get that feeling only when they've squashed other people down. So when you first encounter this type of harassment and behavior, it may be shocking to you because you can't believe that someone would actually behave this way, especially if you've never encountered gaslighters before. You may question whether somebody really said something that you thought they said. So it's important that you document what the supervisor is saying to you. And I don't recommend that you do this on an employer-owned device. Like if your employer gives you your phone, don't write that stuff down on the phone that the employer gave you, because if you're terminated, they can take that phone and your data's in there if you haven't uploaded to the cloud. And plus, you just don't want that stuff on the phone when you turn it into your employer. So just be careful where you document. Also, contact a labor attorney to find out what you can do. There is in the United States, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects you from workplace discrimination based on age, gender, religion, race, culture, national origin. And Title VII applies to businesses with 15 or more employees. Again, I'm speaking about in the U.S. You're also covered if you work for your local, state, or federal government. So if you're sexually harassed as a type of sex discrimination, you are covered under Title VII. So again, it doesn't have to be you directly. It could be that someone at your place of employment is harassing someone else that's impacting your ability to do your job. So in the U.S., the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, has a series of steps if you're being harassed. First, they recommend you contact your harasser directly, and this may be really uncomfortable, but it puts the gaslighter on notice and will help you build a case if the harassment continues. For harassment case, you need to prove that the behavior is unwelcome, and that you notified the harasser, and also, even if you kind of laughed it off or tried to ignore it before, because it was really uncomfortable, you can still tell them that the behavior is unwelcome. So it may have been that you're surrounded by coworkers at the time, you laughed it off due to the pressure of having others around you, or again, you felt really uncomfortable. So you can still tell the gaslighter this is not appropriate. Now, if you work at the gaslighter, you know this is also tricky because they file away grievances and can try to get you back, like vindictive stuff. So I would recommend contacting an attorney just to see what your rights are. And again, this doesn't always apply based on the number of employees you have as well. So always check with an attorney. And again, I'm not an attorney, I'm a therapist, so always check with a legal representation. It's recommended to keep documentation when you spoke to the gaslighter, including the date, time, if anyone else was present, and direct quotes of what you said and what they said, and how the gaslighter responded. And if the gaslighter asks to meet with you alone, it's usually a good idea to have a witness with you, because otherwise it's just their word against your word. So also, if you feel your safety is at risk by contacting the gaslighter directly, you can go the next step, which is filing a complaint at your company. Not all companies have a complaint process, so that's another thing to contact an attorney about. So once you file a complaint with your work and the harassment still continues, or it's not fixed to your satisfaction, there are some steps you can take or you must take with EEOC before filing a lawsuit under federal law. So first you have to file a charge of discrimination with the EEOC, your state employment protection department. If you don't file this, your lawsuit may be dismissed. Also, a charge of discrimination can be filed at your regional, state, or local EEOC office. Your state laws determine how long a period of time you have from when the harassment happened to when you filed the charge. So after you file, an EEOC member will interview you and determine if your employer violated Title VII. Now, again, Title VII doesn't apply to every employer. So, again, check with an attorney. And then the EEOC continues with their process. So, again, you can find the EEOC. So you may be the victim of harassment by a gaslighter if the gaslighter tells you that your job or assignment depends on sexual activity, if you're watched intensely for no reason other than the employer, your gaslighting employer just likes to see you sweat. Employees play quote-unquote pranks on you, which are not actually pranks, they're harassment. Your items are removed and they're replaced on your desk or they're hidden. Also, employees tamper with your food in the office refrigerator. If a person blocks your exit from your office or cubicle, that is also a violation. And also, I would contact an attorney if you are faced with that. If you get leers or gestures as you walk by, you get cat calls or the "you need to smile" comments, if you have an employer ask you out, if you're being retaliated against for any reason, if you're having your locker or personal items broken into, having messages or pictures posted in your locker, having your items hidden from you, like I said, and also unauthorized employees entering your workspace without your permission. And this is tricky, but this is what doesn't constitute harassment. So that's something we need to keep in mind. So being complimented on outfit, being told you look nice today, being asked out on a date when that person is your equal at the office, meaning they're not a supervisor, being told there's areas of your work performance that need improvement, if there's evidence showing that there's areas that need improvement, or being asked to meet with your employer about concerns. So again, if you have a pattern of this person also having harassing behaviors, yes, you have cause to be concerned. But it can be tricky because gaslighters also can kind of do stuff just under the radar. But that's why it's really important to keep documentation. So I'm going to discuss a little bit more about what makes it difficult to work with a gaslighting boss. So first, they may look like they're really competent at their job, which makes it more difficult for you because you're reporting about somebody's behavior, and according to the company, they haven't done anything outrageous. So that's very tricky, and also it feels like you haven't been validated, which is a really horrible feeling. Gaslighters, like I mentioned, they'll watch you at work. They will do it to extremes. You may find that your supervisor's watching much more than they're watching other people, and there's really no reason for it. You might find out that they're hanging around you a little too closely when there are less people at work. And then again, like I mentioned, this can be turning into leering and looking at you in a way that makes you feel really uncomfortable. Now, always trust that gut feeling. If something feels uncomfortable or threatening, it probably is. You have the right to say loudly, "Please back up." And also, it makes it known to others in the office when you're vocal like that the person's behaving inappropriately. And they will back off if they know that gaslighters will back off if they know that someone else has heard about them. And to gaslighters, the image is everything. So if you call out, "Please back up," they tend to do that because they don't want it getting out to other people how they're behaving. Now, keep in mind that they may use those exact words on you, even if you're not in their space, because they'll use it as a way to get you back. So, sometimes you just have to leave your job, and that's really unfair to you. But these people will, again, burn the company down to the ground to get their way. So sometimes it's better just to go and leave your job. But again, always contact an attorney first. So also, gaslighting supervisors can gang up. They can band together. Even someone that's not typically a gaslighter, there's this group mentality that when you are part of a group, you tend to possibly put your ethics aside and join the group, which is called crowd psychology. And again, we're more likely to engage in behavior when others are doing it, even if it's against our beliefs. So group behavior is contagious, and participating in it makes you feel anonymous, so you don't feel like you're held to the same standard as if you're doing it on your own. So sometimes supervisors, again, can get together and gaslight you as a group. They can make up false information about you in a job performance evaluation, and someone else in the group will sign off on it. Now, if the gaslighters give you a performance review, always, again, like I said, have another supervisor or someone else in the room as a witness. So if you have an unfavorable, unwarranted evaluation, you can request another performance evaluation from a higher level supervisor. If asked why, you can just say you have discrepancies with the evaluation. Now, make sure you show up to the evaluation with documentation of your accomplishments at work, and you need to have concrete evidence why the performance evaluation that you were given was not accurate. And also review your employee manual, if there is one, to see if there's steps that your company requires if you feel a performance review is not accurate. Now, if your gaslighting boss tells you that you need to sign a performance evaluation, you feel that evaluation is not correct, you're under no obligation to sign. These are not law performance reviews, they're company policy. Usually signing a performance review just means that you received it. It doesn't mean you've accepted it. But if you see fine print that says, I agree to the comments and evaluation above, consider not signing it. And again, talk to an attorney about that. You also can have a comment box on there sometimes. And again, it's up to you if you want to write a comment. But again, always consider talking to an attorney before you take that step. Here's some ways to protect yourself. First, never be alone with a gaslighter at work. And again, if you can't find a witness before a meeting with a gaslighter, reschedule the meeting. You may feel that you're putting your career in jeopardy by not meeting with them, but also you're putting your career in jeopardy by meeting with them alone without a witness. Also, meet with your boss once a week to review projects you're working on and also to update your boss with your progress. This way, if a gaslighter at work claims the work was all theirs, you have previous notifications to your boss that the work was yours. And also, meeting with your boss on a weekly basis gives you a chance to air grievances as they happen. Now, that means if that boss in particular is not a gaslighter. If your boss says that they don't believe a gaslighter you're working with would do something like they've done, document that your boss said that. And again, do not put that on a employer-owned device. Now, if your boss says you need to work it out with a gaslighter first, tell them that you've tried and that you don't feel comfortable doing so. And again, consider consulting with an attorney. You can ask to be moved to a different area of the building. You can ask to be moved to a different department in lieu of quitting, because I know, like I said, sometimes quitting seems like it's the best option, even though it's really not fair to you, but these people are extremely toxic. Also, and I can't stress this enough, do not drink at office parties. That brings prime opportunities for gaslighters to victimize people. And whether taking stuff from you or lying about what you did, all the way up to making you prone to being assaulted by them. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, I have the right to drink at an office party. Yeah, you do. But keep in mind that you've got a gaslighter at your office. So do not make yourself vulnerable to this person. And a way to make yourself vulnerable is by drinking. Yeah, it's not fair to you, but also it's, you're working with a gaslighter, so you got to protect yourself. And again, keep documentation, the date of the event, the time of it, who was present, what was said. Use direct quotes as much as possible, the other people and your own direct quotes, and then what behaviors occurred. And again, keep this information on a personal device rather than a work issued one, because again, if you're fired from your workplace, they usually take that device back right away. Now, if you're in the UK, harassment is unlawful under the Equality Act of 2010. And in the Equality Act of 2010, harassment is defined as unwanted conduct related to a relevant, protected characteristic which has the purpose or effect of violating an individual's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment for that individual. Now, the UK government recommends sorting out the problem informally at first. Consider contacting the gaslighter directly about their behavior. You have the option of doing this in person or in writing. But again, I recommend that you contact a labor attorney to discuss your rights. Now, many times this isn't just an issue with one gaslighter, it's a systemic issue, which means that you don't feel supported by your workplace. And again, look up your rights, contact an attorney, and sometimes it's just best if you leave your job. And again, that's not fair to you, but also it depends on how much of your emotional energy and time are being eaten up by the gaslighter. And again, if you contact an attorney, you can find out what your rights are in the workplace. But again, sometimes you just need to leave. And sometimes people are not held accountable, and that's really unfair, and they should be held accountable. But again, consider that gaslighters are really good at doing stuff that's just under the radar. So again, there have been several people that have had to leave their jobs, and unfortunately that happens, and it shouldn't be happening, but I think the more attention that we draw to gaslighting And the more attention we draw to this form of coercive control and emotional abuse, I think that less people are going to be able to get away with this in the workplace. So again, if you are facing this type of behavior from a gaslighter, keep documentation, meet with an attorney, and then also consider whether leaving your job might be the best option. I have a whole chapter in my book, Gaslighting, Recognize Manipulative and Emotionally Abusive People and Break Free. Chapter 4 is on gaslighters in the workplace, so I recommend that. And also there's a chapter on how to cope with and survive gaslighting as well. My website is stephaniesarkis.com, and if you want to get directly to the book, it's stephaniesarkis.com/gaslighting. And this has been an episode of Talking Brains. And I'm Dr. Stephanie Sarkis, again, stephaniesarkis.com. So please hit that subscribe button and give us a rating. It's appreciated. Thank you very much. So in my book, Gaslighting, I have a whole chapter dedicated to gaslighting in the workplace. So I encourage you to check that out as Chapter 4 of Gaslighting, Recognize Manipulative and Emotionally Abusive People and Break Free. There's also information there, too, about how to cope with gaslighting when you're a victim of it and how to survive it. And you can find that at stephaniesarkis.com.